This is Regis Rubaru Progre, #1 in the world, and you listen to the Ringside Boxing Show.
Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, and John J. Responti, today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show.
Hey, welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor, and in just a few minutes, John J. Responti and I are going to be talking to one of the fastest rising stars in boxing, along with his equally colorful father and trainer. Teofimo Lopez Jr. has exploded onto the boxing scene with highlight reel knockouts against pretty formidable opposition, boisterous interviews, and showmanship we haven't seen in the boxing ring for a very long time, since probably the days of Prince Naseem Hamed and Macho Camacho and Jorge Paez, and way back to Muhammad Ali. Teofimo and his dad, Teofimo Sr., are from Brooklyn, New York. They got the attitude, the confidence, and a special knack for putting on a show, all of which we're going to bring to the Ringside Boxing Show very shortly. So pop some popcorn and then find something to grab onto, because this one is going to be special. We're also going to hear from our British correspondent today, Paul McLaughlin, who's going to catch us up on some recent stuff from the UK boxing scene. And we'll lead it off, as we do every week, with a conversation with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman's a professional boxer, boxing trainer, and promoter from Osborne, Missouri. He's now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwan Zahid's a boxing journalist from Toronto. And John J. Responti is chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com. John and I are co-authors of Intimate Warfare, True Story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward Boxing Trilogy, which is an Amazon bestseller. We got John and Rizwan with us today, and Travis may be popping up in a little bit. So, hey, Riz, let me throw the first one to you today, because you were the first to react to the news that Alexander Usyk is likely to make his heavyweight debut against a very, very live dog, Alexander Povetkin, on May 18th on DAZN. Usyk is 16-0 with 12 KOs at a cruiserweight, where he's beaten guys like Tony Bellew and Murat Gassiev and Maris Briedis and Marco Huck, to name a few. Povetkin's 39, and he's a former WBA heavyweight champion. He's 32-2 with 24 knockouts, and he's coming off a seventh-round knockout loss to Anthony Joshua last September at Wembley Stadium. He gave up 4 inches and 23 pounds to Joshua in that fight, but it won't have that problem this time. He's going to be the bigger guy in the ring. Riz, nobody would have criticized Usyk for wading into the heavyweight pool a bit more carefully, but he went out and tapped a top 5 guy right away. How dangerous is this fight for him?
I think it's dangerous, but also I think for him it makes sense, because he's not 24. He understands that he's going to strike while the iron's hot, and I think he's going to test himself right away. I think he also understands fighting a guy just based on size is not really going to tell him anything about how he'll fare in that division himself. So he's not going to waste his own time. So he understands that, this is a guy who just came off a loss against Joshua, got brutally knocked out, but there's a couple of periods of time where he landed some good shots, was winning some rounds against Joshua too. So he's fighting a guy who has experience, has been on the highest level, is a former champ, and has ring IQ to boot also. So he's bringing everything, and this is a good test for him. Now, and if Usyk, I think he understands, a big win or an impressive win will tell us how he'll fit in that division. And it's funny, because you said Povetkin's going to be the heavier guy. You're probably right, but I really don't know what weight Usyk's going to come in at. The cruiserweights don't really have an unofficial weighing scale, but I would estimate he's probably walking in a cruiserweight fight around 220, 215, 220. Do you think that's fair? Because I think he's weighing in at 200 at the weigh-in actually. So fight night, I don't think it's far off to estimate he's coming in at 215. So which means that for this fight, would you be surprised if he comes in at 220, 225 even? Let's say he comes in at 220. Between 215 and 220, I think he comes in at, and that means he's not that much smaller. I think he still obviously has to grow into that division, but I don't think you're going to bid Usyk just on size. You're just not. If you land a shot, yeah, you might knock him out, but I think that's pretty much the same for every other heavyweight fighter. I think already him entering this division tells you that there is no one with a higher IQ in this division than Usyk, and that alone means he can outbox everyone. The guy who would probably be the most difficult for him is a guy like Fury, because Fury has the size and the ring IQ. The other guys don't. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to see what Usyk brings in. Usyk's been one of my favorite fighters for quite a long time, because I saw, the goods that he is as an amateur and as a professional. And again, he's just a guy who's daring to be great, and he's going to take the risks accordingly. So I don't think they're trying to wait till 2021 to get him a big shot, especially with, the fallout with Wilder and Fury. It's realistic that he might end up fighting Joshua by the end of the year, because realistically there just might not be other opponents there for him, for Joshua, that is, because everyone's kind of fighting on different networks. So all of this, the drama that's been unfolding, I'm sure Usyk's looking at this and thinking, this is exactly what I want, because I don't think they realize just what they've never fought someone like Usyk, who's going to be boxing and landing body shots and going in and out, and when he wants to sit on his punches, he can finish you with a one-punch knockout like Bellew, or he can just put on a boxing clinic against like he did against Gassiev. So I want to see the full repertoire from Usyk, because he's going to be very dangerous in this division.
John, you've actually compared Usyk to a much larger version of Vasyl Lomachenko, which to me is the ultimate compliment in boxing today. Despite the formidability of Povetkin, you kind of see Usyk as a solid favorite, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think Povetkin's on the back nine of his career. He put up a good fight against Joshua. He almost got beat by David Price, though. He got clipped and would have went down if the ropes hadn't stopped him. I think if Povetkin was, if it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe, I think the challenge would be more. But obviously Povetkin has a chance for sure, because more than a chance. He's a live dog. We have to say that, because he's got technique. He's obviously got experience. He can punch hard. Usyk will be in there against a heavyweight who I'm sure he sparred with, so it'll just be up to his chin. And I think the dangerous part of the fight for him is going to be in the early going, because he tends to start slow, if you guys have seen some of his fights, and then he starts to figure you out, and then he gets you. And either stops you or starts widening the gap between you. So he has to be careful. But I think he wins. I do. I think if he's around, if he's still going strong in round 7 or 8, he wins the decision. I don't know if he could stop him. He might stop him late too. Riz is right on the money, Dennis, and we talked about this. I think the reason that they're taking this somewhat risky fight is because the fact that Usyk is 31 years old, and they don't have a lot of time. They can't have him fight somebody that isn't that known. They got to get him in there with somebody that most boxing people know, get him a big win, and then start saying, look, maybe one more, or start saying, look, we want Joshua, and they want to go for it. So you can't blame them. They feel like they can't waste time, and I don't think they can. I think their thinking is correct, and Usyk is going to give Joshua or Wilder a really hard time. Riz, again, is right on the money. A fight with Fury would be very, very difficult for him, because Fury is so big and so long and awkward and also talented. So that would be tough. But Joshua and Wilder are a little slower. I wouldn't say lumbering, but slower for sure. Usyk can do his thing. He can outbox him. I can see that. The danger, of course, would be getting hit by Joshua or Wilder. But he's real solid, and we should get a good feel for that after he fights Povetkin, because Povetkin hits him, it could be a problem here. So, I think he's going to win that fight, and I like the thinking of his team. I think this is a really good fight for him.
You know what? While we're talking heavyweights, let's revisit this Wilder-Fury fight. How did this thing get screwed up? Wilder says, he said this week, we knew Fury wasn't going to take this fight. Fury signed the ESPN deal to run away from me. That sounds like just pre-fight hype to me. But in this case, I believe him. It looks that way to me. Boxing News 24 reports that Wilder is going to fight Dominic Breazeale now. He's moved on. And then he wants to fight Joshua instead of Fury. He's pissed off at Fury. What I don't get here is what Fury thinks this leaves him. He was positioned to become the top dog in the division, the shot caller, if he beats Wilder. And now, because he and Frank Warren have entered into this what's supposedly an exclusive contract with ESPN, I think he's on the outside looking in at all this. Can anybody make sense of this? Riz, any ideas about that?
Sorry, repeat it?
Well, yeah. What's Fury thinking signing with ESPN? We kind of touched on this last week, but what sense does it make? He seems to be on the outside looking in now. Wilder doesn't want to fight him now. Joshua hasn't had an interest in fighting him. Why did he do it? Why is he out
I don't
there?
know. I really don't know. And I don't know. And I mean, it's not like he wasn't a free agent either. He had Frank Warren with him, and they signed together, so it makes even less sense to me. My thinking is that they understand his personality. They can put him with 3 soft opponents, and this could be guaranteed money for Fury. And then, maybe not 3 soft opponents, but at least 1. And then he'll have, the rematch on pay-per-view is going to be worth a lot more. And I think the thinking is that Fury will get more views and he's more watched than Wilder is, which I think is probably true. So I think you can make him a bigger household name, and then maybe he gets the lion's share against Deontay Wilder. But I mean, it's a very risky proposition. I mean, I don't know. I don't see the thinking there. And it's funny how we were talking about, who's next for each of these fighters. Is it one guy or the other? We were just talking about the top 3 guys. Now they're on 3 different networks. So how the hell is this going to work? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But this is good for Joshua. Actually, this is really big for Joshua because I think a rematch with Wilder and Fury was the worst thing that would have happened to Joshua. But now Joshua's coming in to America, and I think maybe we end up seeing Joshua and Fury maybe closer than we thought we would. But again, they're just sitting quietly, like very quietly. And I mean, it's very possible that he comes in, and again, of the 3 networks, he's the only one who's aligned on. He's on the same network as Anthony Joshua. So realistically, that fight could be happening this year. Maybe it's probably quicker than these guys would have wanted. But again, if Usyk comes in and he beats Joshua, let's say he does, Wilder and Fury, what they're doing doesn't really matter at that point because no one's going to look at them as a number 1 guy. Because Joshua is still kind of standing as the number 1 guy. But, I mean, I don't know. I think all these guys it's like I said last week, I think it was boxing knocking itself out. And I think it's the exact same happening again. It just doesn't – I don't really understand what the thinking is. I mean, I guess we'll have a better idea, hopefully, when it actually comes out. But, I mean, this is one of these moments where you're going to look at, what you have to look at. You have to look at Bob Arum and think, this guy's smart, man. He knows how to get involved somehow with everything. He knows how to make himself some extra coin. He knows how to get fighters' attention. He's always done all these things very, very well. And again, this was one that no one knew that Fury was even being shocked or he was going to go anywhere. And I think Top Rank is the co-promoter here. And, with all the other fighters, if you guys remember when they booked the Ledia Alvarez and Kovalev fight, Top Rank got a piece of that because that was just their contract setup with ESPN. So again, Top Rank somehow just keeps winning in all this, and this is a company a lot of people thought would die 10 years ago, and they're still number 1. And it's just they know how to get things done. And I'll say that even if we don't know what the strategy is yet, I'm sure Top Rank and Bob Arum does, because I don't think he does anything without knowing the full pros and cons and what he could achieve with it.
John, what do you think the chances are that Tyson Fury has bad memories of laying on his back in the 15th round with his eyeballs rolling back in his skull and really doesn't want to fight Wilder again anytime soon?
Well, it's interesting you brought this up, Dennis, because we talked about it, and I wrote an article for Max Boxing that's probably going to be out on Monday or Tuesday, and the headline is "Why Tyson Fury's Decision Isn't Such a Crazy One," basically, and that's pretty much my argument. And I think it's Bob Arum also whispering in his ear. I'm thinking that perhaps Fury, even though he thinks he won, and I think he won too, does realize that getting hit by Wilder like that again, he might not get up. And then what? Then where does he go? So I'm thinking that maybe he's thinking, and this is psychobabble, of course, but maybe he's thinking, look, I want to milk this a little bit. I want to have an easy fight. And I think he could end up fighting Wilder anyway. I mean, Riz is the expert on the networks and everything, and I hope that it's not all mucked up. I'm an optimist, so I'm going to think that eventually they will fight again. But if we get Joshua and Fury, that isn't so bad either. So, see, the way I see it is Wilder might be left out in the cold, which is bad for him. And you kind of got that feeling a little bit from what Fury said in a tweet after Wilder complained about what he did. He goes, how's it feel that I'm more popular than you are in America? Oh, wow, too bad and all that. So that made me think, well, that's what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm going to make a lot of money, and then I'm going to take a risky fight. I'm going to make quite a bit. If I fight, back to that, if I fight Wilder again and he knocks me out, what do I do? Do I retire? Do I try to come back? I don't get the feeling he wants to go through that. So right at this time, maybe feeling a little vulnerable, Arum whispered in his ear, hey, let's do this, and we'll manage you, and we'll get the big fights. But you can be the lineal champion. Keep saying that, and maybe we'll do this. And you got 2, 3, 4 years maybe instead of one fight, which is very possible, and you're done. So that's kind of what my theory is, Dennis. And Fury is a different kind of guy. You guys got to remember that. He's the Gypsy King. He doesn't follow along what people think are typical. I actually like the guy. I used to not like him so much, but I like him more now. He's provocative in a lot of ways, but I think he's thinking about maximizing his earning potential, and he is a prize fighter. And they're not very often. I mean, obviously it happens, but a lot of times, especially nowadays, fighters don't go right back into a big rematch that's risky. They usually have one fight, and then they do it. Now, Canelo and Golovkin changed that a little bit, but they had another fight in between because it got postponed, but they went for it again. But the norm is sometimes you have one fight and then go, or have 2 fights. And I don't think it's going to kill the build-up at all if both of them fight and then they fight. Now, that's the best case. But I kind of get it, Dennis, and it doesn't bother me nearly as much as it bothered some people, and it didn't really surprise me as much either. I thought, well, okay, I think I have a theory what he's doing, but your original comment, I think, at least the way I'm thinking, rings true.
All right. Jarrell Miller is an 8-5 underdog to Anthony Joshua. Is this matchup that good, Riz? That's not very long odds.
I'm surprised, actually, and to be honest, I mean, we don't know what Jarrell Miller is going to bring. Let's be honest. Would it surprise us if he's laid out in the first round? To be honest, not really. I mean, he's a big guy and he seems durable. We also know he's never been in a ring with someone like this. He's never fought a guy with this kind of talent, and even though he's a big dude and he seems like he can take a probably good shot with those boulders of shoulders he has, sometimes it doesn't translate, especially if there's no hand movement and all that. I'll say this though, I mean, we talked about how for Joshua, this is the first time in his career he's not having, home field advantage, so to speak. But sometimes that's not a good thing. And for Miller, he's never been in this limelight. He's never had this pressure. Joshua fought Vasyl Lomachenko on the biggest stage, and he got up and came back to win by knockout. Miller's never kind of had that, and that might be pretty bad for him. But that being said, we've seen stranger upsets in sports and life and boxing, especially at the heavyweight level. Jarrell Miller can pull this off. I haven't been too impressed with any of Anthony Joshua's recent fights. Jarrell Miller, he's poised for this. He's been asking this for a really, really long time, and he's a 300-pound guy. He throws 1,000 punches. I think the odds are a little crazy, but if I'm a betting man, I'm taking Jarrell Miller for this fight, just based on those odds, because I don't think you can quantify what you're going to get. I think you don't know what you're going to see with Jarrell Miller, because everything about him is not normal. A guy who's 320 pounds who throws 1,000 punches, who's built like a linebacker or an offensive lineman. This is none of this is usual, and because of that, I don't think we're going to know what we're going to get until we see it. So I think for those odds, yeah, I think I'm going to take Jarrell Miller because he has the ability. He has the ability to pull off a weird upset just because this is not normal. This is not something that Joshua would have seen, and it's going to be very hard for someone like Joshua to do sparring for a guy like Jarrell Miller because I don't know if you're going to find someone like him out there.
Man, that's true. Yeah, you got to go to the NFL to find somebody like him. John, the other factor that Riz just alluded to, and we actually talked to Teofimo Lopez about this a little bit later on in this interview people are about to hear. But Anthony Joshua is coming to New York City. He's coming to America for the first time. He's going to be fighting in New York City, which can be a mean, nasty place for a visiting fighter. And he's going to be in Madison Square Garden. Man, that can be a distraction. What's your take on this fight? You kind of think Jarrell Miller might be a live dog in this.
Oh yeah, I definitely think he's a live dog. I don't think it's going to bother Joshua too much. He might be a little more nervous than he usually is, but I think he'll get over that pretty quickly. The key will be, see, in a way, Big Baby is a freak because he's a big, huge guy, and I think of this is a very bizarre analogy, but this is the way my brain works sometimes. I think about Laurel and Hardy and Oliver Hardy, how he was so light on his feet, and even though he was a 270-pound guy, and I kind of think Jarrell Miller hasn't weighed 270 pounds in God knows how long, but he's very light on his feet, and he's a very good athlete. So that could be something that could confuse Joshua a little bit, because as we know, and then the other thing is, we can't build Joshua up like he's the second coming of Joe Louis. I mean, none of these guys, let's be honest, none of these guys, the three guys now, are great fighters. They're pretty good, maybe good, pretty good, but so they can lose. Any fighter can lose, but it's not going to be. I'm not even going to watch it because it's a rollover, like it was with Tyson for a while. Mike Tyson, you'd know he was going to win, for a few years. It wasn't you'd watch it because you love boxing, but you weren't expecting to see anything. This fight could be interesting because there's those intangibles that we don't know, and Joshua's flaws, and Riz is right again. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Joshua hits him with a big right hand and down he goes in the first round. He doesn't get up. But then I wouldn't be surprised if it's the 10th round and the fight is close and Big Baby is staying close, smothering him, working on the inside, hitting him with body shots, and Joshua, who's prone to get tired, is starting to look a little gassed. So because of that, the fight is very intriguing as far as I'm concerned. And with the heavyweight, they sometimes fight in slow motion, but it could be, there could be an upset here. 9-5 or 8-5, I'm sorry.
8-5, yeah.
Yeah, that's close. And if it's 8 to, I doubt it'll be 8-5 on a fight night. I think it'll be a little wider, perhaps, maybe 9-5, which isn't much. But if that's the case, yeah. I'm on a roll lately. I might go put some money on Big Baby, but I like this fight, but it's the funny thing about it, Dennis, is it could go like we said, or it could be a massive blowout. There doesn't seem to be a middle, and the fascinating part is going to be in the first 5 rounds because again, if Joshua nails Big Baby with a right hand, and the cheeseburger-loving Big Baby just looks at him, could be very interesting. Could be very interesting, because again, with some fighters, we don't know what his chin. If his chin is very good, I've seen him get hit and nothing's happened. I don't even think he's been knocked down, but I'm not sure about that. But Joshua hits very hard, so it's risky for Joshua. I mean, if he loses, those bigger fights we were just talking about back in England go right out the window. So that's what makes this such an interesting fight in that respect. And so when June 4th rolls around, I mean, I think we're all going to be glued to the TV.
There's also that rumor that Big Baby got knocked down 7 times in a sparring session Tyson Fury. Nobody knows whether that's true, I guess. But, okay, now here's the other one that caught my attention this week. There was a photo a couple days ago of Canelo and Jacobs facing off, and the top of Canelo's head, hair and all, reaches Jacobs' eyebrows. Jacobs 5'11 and a half, almost 6 feet. Canelo's only 5'8". Jacobs, I looked it up today, has a 73-inch reach, and Canelo's 70 inches. So there's 3 inches there. So there's a really significant length advantage for Jacobs in both categories. Riz, is this something that can make a huge difference on May 4th, or is Canelo just a different kind of bird?
I don't know. I mean, Canelo's always been the shorter guy in the ring, but he's always usually the most powerful, and he can still land body shots. And I think the thing with Jacobs is he doesn't always fight tall. He doesn't always use all that reach. And to be honest, if you're not using it, you're losing it. So it's up to Jacobs to actually utilize all those things. But I'll say this: there are similarities with Golovkin and Canelo in the sense that both of them pretty much had the same amount of reach, and Jacobs is the guy who is the more athletic, I think, of all those three. And if he utilizes that athleticism, then yeah, he can definitely win. But again, to me, Jacobs is not the same guy he was 2 or 3 years ago. Despite the close fight against Golovkin, has he looked the same to any of us? I don't think so.
No.
And that was, and let's face it, that was a night where to most of us, Golovkin didn't look as good, and Jacobs looked better than he ever has. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that Jacobs had the greatest night of his career and it still wasn't good enough, or is that actually who he is? Because since then, he hasn't looked the same to me. And Canelo just looks like he's getting better. Now there's, the rehydration clause and all this coming out. So, against Golovkin rather, Jacobs came in at 180. He's not going to be able to do that for this fight. And if, all things are equal, usually Canelo has, comes in heavy and he can kind of have his way with that. He's not going to be able to do that. With Jacobs. Jacobs can use that size advantage that he would have. So, reach advantage, all these things. I mean, all these things I think makes the difference when it comes to guys, that are so neck and neck that it's the little things that are going to make a difference, especially when especially when a guy is a slick boxer and, really like a guy like Lomachenko and like he has to utilize his reach. Okay, the other guy's a harder reach, so Lomachenko's going to have to go in and out. With Jacobs, though, it's just a matter of if he's going to use it or not, because if he gets himself into a firefight, he's going to be deep trouble. And I don't think it makes sense for him to do that. I think we've seen, even though Canelo's gotten better, we've seen him flat-footed numerous times. We've seen him with the inability to cut off the ring. We saw him chasing Conor around the ring before he finally caught him. So Jacobs to me, if he gets knocked down, I think he loses. I don't think for him to get we've seen him with Canelo fights before. For him to get the scores, he's got to enter the fight thinking he's already 2 rounds down. I think he's got to dominate the fight to have any sort of chance, I think, of getting the scorecards. And again, people can argue otherwise, but every benefit of every doubt has always been Canelo's way for his entire career. We're talking about 5 or 6 fights where there's judges who are just blindly giving a scorecard. So Jacobs also has to think that, one judge is going to have it for Canelo regardless. So he has to dominate it to get on the other 2 judges' scorecards. Basically, I wouldn't be surprised if there's if for Jacobs to win, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 7-5, 7-5 Jacobs and, 10-2 Canelo. It would not surprise me at all. So it's he has his work cut out for him, and not just a fighter in front of him. And everyone, Lara and a bunch of other people have said the same thing. They're like, well, Canelo's a good fighter, but Jacobs, he's fighting the refs and the judges and everything else in between. So Jacobs has to fight the perfect fight, and I don't know if he has it in him anymore, because the most perfect fight he fought was against Golovkin, and yes, it was a close fight, so he could have got the win, but the point is it was enough to win 7 rounds at best, and I just don't think that's good enough against Canelo at this point in time.
Man, that is such a great point, especially for somebody out there who's thinking Jacobs has a great shot and you're going to roll the dice and put money on him for an upset, John. Canelo's always the house fighter. So if Canelo is on his feet at the end, he's probably going to win the fight, isn't he?
Yeah, and I don't like this. I don't even like to talk about it. I hate that about it. I don't understand. Okay, he makes the most money. He's the money cow, but that's so cynical, And in sports, and this is going to sound so idealistic and naive. So hell with it. This is exactly what it is. Sports is supposed to be about fairness and sportsmanship and all that. But in boxing, my God, you go back and read 100 years. It's not like that. The big guys always seem to get especially the guys that make everybody a lot of money, the breaks, the favors, the best referees in their pocket or whatever. They get it. Even happens in the NBA. There used to be a thing called Michael Jordan rules. And in the referees too, they would give him the benefit of the doubt on moves that they would call offensive fouls on other guys. So when you're a superstar, and let's face it, Canelo is probably the top of the heap right now, he's going to get that. And I hate it, honestly. I hate it. And I feel bad for Jacobs. And if I'm Jacobs, I'm thinking that. I'm thinking I'm going to knock this guy out to win. And, he could certainly win, though, Dennis, I think. But another good point, though, is that I'm thinking just like Riz that Jacobs hasn't looked all that good in his last few fights. And I think Canelo is in the prime of his career right now, the prime of his abilities. So I'm thinking that if anyone's getting knocked out, it's Jacobs. And regardless of the height and the reach and all that, I think Canelo is going to get to him. And he works so hard, and he's got a plan coming in, and so does Jacobs. But I just feel like it's going to be too much for Jacobs to beat. The hill is too steep for him to get over. Right, and that's true. I mean, none of us would be surprised if we hear 7-5 for one, and then 7-5, and then 10-2 for Canelo. I mean, that is so ridiculous, and everybody moans about it, but it keeps happening over and over again. So I guess we got to hope there's a knockout in this fight, so it doesn't go to the judges, because it'll just confirm our worst fears, and we won't be surprised. It's a big fight. I'm looking forward to it so much. It's a contrast in styles and all that, but God, that dark side to boxing about the house fighter and all that crap, God, that aggravates me.
Okay, last topic for you guys. I want to get to your feedback on an article that my friend Thomas Hauser, writing for the Sporting News, he wondered aloud who should be the fighter of the decade, meaning the best fighter since 2010. His nominees are in alphabetical order were Canelo, Golovkin, Klitschko, Mayweather, and Ward. And then Michael Rosenthal for Boxing Scene added 3 more in an article he followed up with. He put on Crawford, Chocolatito, and Lomachenko. So there's 8 guys there. So the question only considers what they accomplished since 2010. So here's the breakdown on this. Okay, Canelo is 21-1-1 with 13 knockouts in this decade, and his big wins were against Mosley, Cotto, Golovkin, Lara, and Trout. That's a pretty good lineup. He lost to Floyd. He drew with Golovkin. Crawford, since 2010, is 24-0, 18 knockouts. His best wins came against Gamboa, Beltran, Ricky Burns, Delorme, Victor Postol, and Julius Ndongo. So maybe not quite as impressive there. Golovkin's gone 20 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 19 knockouts in his 20 wins. And he's beaten Jacobs, Brook, Lemieux, Daniel Geale, and Curtis Stevens. So 2 real good guys and maybe 3 that are in the B category. He had a loss and a draw to Canelo, of course. Mayweather, 10-0, 2 knockouts since 2010. He beat Mosley, Cotto, Canelo, Pacquiao, and Maidana twice. That's pretty impressive. And then you got Andre Ward, who was 11-0, 3 knockouts. Alan Green, Sakio Bika, Arthur Abraham, Carl Froch, Chad Dawson, Sullivan Barrera, and Kovalev twice. That's quite a lineup there for Ward. And then Lomachenko, 12-1, 9 knockouts, beat Gary Russell, Roman Martinez, Nicholas Walters, Rigondeaux, and Linares. And his loss came to Salido. And lastly, I guess we got 2 more. Chocolatito, 23-2, 19 knockouts. And his best were Juan Francisco Estrada, Akiro Yegashi, Edgar Sosa, Valoria, and Quadras, and he lost twice to Sriskatet Sor Rungvisai. And then you got Klitschko, the last guy, 11-2, 7 knockouts since 2010. He beat Samuel Peter, David Hay, Tony Thompson, Alexander Povetkin, and Pulev, and he lost to Fury and Joshua. So, Riz, you go first. Who's the fighter of the decade? Is it one of these guys or somebody else?
To be honest, I don't like this category. It's very flawed. For a guy like, Klitschko, who probably hit his peak around 2005, 2006, and then ended his career around 2015, 2016, he didn't fight long enough for that first decade to win, and I think people argue the same thing for this decade. But even though he was dominant for an entire decade, right? So, so because of that, I would side with Klitschko because I don't think you should just completely discount everything before 2010 just because his career kind of fell in line at that time. It's almost like you have to be a certain age and born a certain time to fight in a certain decade that goes from 0 to 10. So because of that, I'm going to go a little off the board and I'll go with Klitschko. Andre Ward, I would say would probably be the top guy because he kind of hit his prime right around 2009 during the Super Six and all that. But he had many years of inactivity. So did Mayweather. So because of that, it's and a guy like Lomachenko, his year is still going on. So because of that, he might drastically by the time the year is done, you might have a completely different guy to discuss too. So I think a lot of the guys you're discussing on this list are very top heavy or end of the year or end of the decade heavy or beginning of it heavy. Usyk beat Joshua this year. I mean, his career only started a freaking few years ago, but I think you got to put him on that list too, right? So I'm not a huge fan of I think you can look at a guy's 10-year span rather than specific time frame because again, Vladimir Klitschko didn't really he's around in 2000, but his 2000 2010 it's not really his the peak of his career. The peak of his career was 2005 2006 to 2015 2016. I mean he was the dominant champ for 10 years. And I don't think anyone else on that list really can say that they were the champ at one specific division for 10 years. So, again, I'm going really off the board, but I'm going Vladimir Klitschko.
Wow. Okay. How about you, John?
Well, it's true. The parameters are a little odd because of where a guy unlucky or whatever his prime will fall. But, see, as I'm sitting here thinking, to me, there are two guys who didn't lose that you mentioned, and that's Money Mayweather and SOG Andre Ward. And their resumes are pretty impressive. And Andre Ward, obviously I like Andre Ward, and I don't think this is biased, though. I think the biggest thing he ever did in his career was when he competed in the Super Six as a huge underdog and won it. And, he beat Kessler. He beat Alan Green. Like you said, Alan Green wasn't that much of a surprise. I'm surprised he's on the list. I mean, Kessler was a more important victory because so many people didn't think he would win that. He was kind of controversial, obviously, but his two victories over Kovalev, first one is highly debatable. Mayweather got a gift, too, earlier in his career, and he had a lot of people think he lost to Maidana, but he won the rematch handily. So to me, it's between them, Mayweather and Andre Ward. But I'd probably go with Ward just because of the competition. He beat Chad Dawson. Now, to be honest, you have to say that Dawson came down in weight. He looked kind of weak. But Ward did it. He did the job. And then to finish off his career, he takes on the guy that nobody wanted to fight him and knocking out everybody. And he's the assassin in the corner hiding. And Ward, even if you feel like he lost the first fight, he came back like grim death and gave Kovalev hell. And then the second fight, even with the controversy, even if he hadn't hit him low, he was going to win that fight. You could see it. You could just see Kovalev just like a balloon losing air. He's just losing it. So I guess if you're going to make me pick somebody, I'd go with Ward. Just because of the accomplishment that he did in such a short time. And that's true, he was inactive, but then he came back after the legal squabbles and he achieved that, and he retired like he did. And again, the zeros, I've never been a big fan of like Mayweather going, I'm 50-0, which is silly with his last win, but in this case, I think it holds some credence because of who they beat and the resumes. So yeah, I with me, it's Andre Ward.
These guys are the official oracles of the Ringside Boxing Show. Rizwan Zahid, John J. Risponti. Travis couldn't make it today. John's going to be back in a few minutes to help me interview Teofimo Lopez Jr. and Sr. Thank you, guys. You guys have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
All right. I also want to throw out one more thing before we move on. Our local fighter, Ruben Villa IV, learned this week that he is now ranked number 15 in the world in the featherweight division by the WBC. Ruben's 15-0 with 5 knockouts. He was a 15-time national champ as an amateur with 2 wins over Shakur Stevenson in the lead-up to the 2015 U.S. Olympic trials. He's coached by Garcia Boxing, and we just want to say congrats to RV4, the pride of Salinas, California. All right, we got plenty ahead for you, so don't go away.
Oh boy, is this great!
This show just makes me want to punish somebody.
What are you doing?
Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the Sweet Science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Familton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken 2 boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com.
Hi there, it's Paul McLaughlin with your weekly roundup of everything going on in the UK boxing scene at the moment. Well, we start off with the news in midweek that Olympic gold medalist and former super middleweight world champion James DeGale has retired from boxing. DeGale announced on social media that he's retiring from the sport on the 10-year anniversary of his boxing debut. It follows a unanimous points decision loss to Chris Eubank Jr. last Saturday night, where the 2-time world champion was floored twice. DeGale said, "Today marks 10 years since my professional debut fight on the 28th of February 2009, and today's the day I'm announcing my retirement from boxing." I have to say a big well done to DeGale. He's achieved quite a lot in his career, first Olympic gold medalist to win a world title, so very best of luck to him. Elsewhere, Anthony Joshua and Jarrell Big Baby Miller's animosity has reached new levels as they filmed The Gloves Are Off for Sky Sports. It was the most difficult edition of the show for host Johnny Nelson to control, as the heavyweight rivals sized each other up. The World Heavyweight Championship is on the line on June the 1st in New York, and Joshua and Miller's rivalry was cranked up this week in London. The tension was in the air as they were face-to-face, barking their predictions for the upcoming fight before leaving acrimoniously. Here's what happened.
Yo, everybody told me his interviews were so good. Like, bro, how you from New York and we got this dry-ass British fish and chip dude over here? Like, he's boring.
No
he's
faking
like, there's
with
no
me.
animosity.
To find the real has stepped foot into New York.
He's boring.
The real has stepped foot into New York.
He has no character. He's not.
This ain't about character. I'm no acting character, bro.
Yeah, but
it's posh attitude. No character.
When does this end? When does this end? When does this trash talking end? Or this goes into the
never.
After I knock him out,
I'll knock him out. He'll go out and fight some of the other fighters I've beaten. Make a name until he put up a good performance against AJ. Put him on an undercard somewhere. Still talk trash. As I say, cut him open 8 pieces. The disease will linger across his whole body.
You know what disease
he don't change, bro. He don't change. You are that you are.
Exactly.
Well, we will see what happens on June the 1st. Elsewhere, talking of heavyweights, last weekend, Joe Joyce pounded Bermain Stiverne to a halt in the 6th round as the British heavyweight lined up a shot at the WBA regular title. The Olympic silver medalist maintained his destructive progress in the professional ranks, flooring Stiverne in the 3rd round before his steady assault forced the former WBC champion to a halt at the O2. Joyce has extended his unbeaten record to 8 victories, all by stoppage, and now set to challenge WBA regular champion Manuel Char. So how did he think he fared against Stiverne? Was he a tough opponent?
You know, it was a really great learning fight for me. You know, I did 6 rounds and, you know, gave him my best shots and he took them. So, you know, respect to him. I mean, he's heavyweight and he can bang and stuff like that, but it wasn't really troubling me. I was waiting for the referee to jump in or like a towel to go in, because when I backed him up at the corner and he didn't have an answer, he should have. Like, why take all that punishment when he's not gonna really get a bingo shot on me and take me out of there? So he didn't have much chance.
And does he have a message for the other heavyweights in the division?
Watch out, the juggernaut's coming.
Well, all will be revealed when he fights his next fight and see where he goes up the rankings. Right, that's your lot from me, guys. I'll be back next week with some more boxing news from the UK. In the meantime, gloves up and protect yourselves at all times. Back to the studio.
We will protect ourselves at all times. Great stuff, Paul McLaughlin. Thank you very much. Hey, one of the most exciting and charismatic young fighters of the world is up next. Hold on to your hats and glasses, boys and girls, because John and I are going to be talking to Teofimo Lopez Jr. and Sr. right after this very short break. See you then.
I'm Dennis Taylor, co-author of the Amazon bestseller Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy. Writing this book was a labor of love for John J. Responti and myself. We enjoyed every minute of the process and considered it a privilege to tell the tale of one of the most electrifying boxing trilogies in the history of this sport. Intimate Warfare traces the collision course of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward from their earliest days through their 3 epic fights, as well as the aftermath of this great rivalry, which culminated in one of the greatest friendships in boxing. Intimate Warfare has received a 4.5-star rating from readers and was endorsed by Hall of Famers Harold Letterman and Joe Cortez and 2-time Trainer of the Year Virgil Hunter. Our foreword was written by Ray Boom Boom Mancini, another one of the greatest blood and guts fighters of our time. Get your copy today at Amazon.com.
Size up Menard for me in terms of what Lopez is in against him.
Well, he has a ton of experience. But right now, he just got caught with the overhand right from Lopez. Lopez getting right to it.
Wow! What a knockdown by Lopez! Spectacular! Contender or beyond. Fortnite celebration again! Folks, what Teofimo Lopez is doing right now as he strikes the Heisman pose as well here in New York, and is he reaching for an Oklahoma jersey there? What a spectacular, you want to talk about the ultimate entertainer. As big a one-punch knockout as you can see, and he's celebrating Kyler Murray's Heisman in New York on a night when he just lit this place ablaze. First round knockout, one-punch power, Teofimo Lopez.
Mason Bernard's been a pro for 11 years, and I can promise you he's never come up against anything like that. Teofimo wanted to put on a show. He did it. Spectacular, albeit a brief one. Listen, it took
Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Responti, and today's featured guest is one of the hottest stars in boxing. Teofimo Lopez is just 21 years old. He's a native of Brooklyn, New York. He's 12-0 with 10 knockouts, and most of those knockouts are highlight reel stuff. He's on the fast track toward a shot at the WBC lightweight crown, currently held by Mikey Garcia, and that belt is expected to become vacant probably after March 16th when Mikey fights Errol Spence for the IBF welterweight championship. Teofimo reportedly on Friday there was a report that he agreed to terms for an April 20th fight against a guy named Edith Tatley, who is 31-2, 10 knockouts, ranked number 3 by both the IBF and WBO, number 10 in the WBC rankings. And Tatley lost by a majority decision to Richard Abril in a WBA title fight back in 2014. He was on the short end of a split decision in 2017 against Francesco Patera, and that he avenged that loss about 7 months later in the rematch. Teofimo, welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show, man. Thanks for making some time for us today. How's Brooklyn?
Brooklyn's nice, man. It was just snowing last night. Thanks for having us.
Wow.
And as of right now, it's not official. It's not officially said. I mean, those are what they're talking about, but it's not official yet. And so
we're just waiting for the contract.
Yeah, we're just waiting as of right now. But that was my father speaking. And
Teofimo Sr.
As of right now, it's just it's not official yet. So
Okay. Are you guys? Let me talk to Senior here. Are you guys pretty much in the dark about what Tafley brings to the table, or have you watched him? Have you seen him on video?
I'm. My son doesn't watch the videos of I do. It reminds me a little bit of Silva. Remember William Silva, the guy that we fought from the Brazilian kid that we fought. And I see him like Silva, but with less technique. I think this fight is going to be really easy for us. Even though he's a top contender, he's ranked number 3. I mean, my son is already ready for a world title. People, top rank knows that, and we just need to get the belt. So these guys can step it up. I wouldn't be surprised if Lomachenko goes down to 130 pounds, and when that does happen, it's because of my son.
Wow. Well, you know what? Looking at this guy's record.
I'm letting you know right now. Lomachenko is scared to death of my son, and watch if it does happen. You heard it from me first. But that's why I'm gonna. I already see it in his face. He's talking about retiring in 2 years. He's talking about going down to 130. I mean, if you're at 135, why are you gonna be talking about going to 130 when you got 2 belts and you need 2 more belts? Which one of those belts we might get? In the near future. And I see it before the end of the year. The only person that can get Lomachenko to fight a pay-per-view card is my son. I've never heard of Lomachenko as much as they're talking about him now, being, that my son is the hot prospect right now, and we're giving him a lot of attention. Everybody wants to see that fight. Even Bob Arum says that even Bob Arum says he wants a big pay-per-view card with him in December or January of 2020. If not in December of 2019, January of 2020. So that's the fight that we really want. If that's what, and it's a beautiful fight. It's a perfect fight, because 99% of the people out there don't know shit about boxing. So, everybody's going to say that Lomachenko is going to kill us or whatever they're saying. And that's the kind of fight I want. I don't want nobody thinking that we're going to beat somebody. I want everybody to think we're not. That's the way everything sells out. But we do have a lot of people that believe in us. And those are the true boxing people that know boxing.
Hey, you're talking to 2 guys right now who believe in you. You've been impressive.
You bet.
You gotta be naive and crazy not to think that we can't beat Lomachenko. I mean, the guy's too small. He ain't got the technique my son's got. The guy does the same thing over and over again, and we know how to adapt. That's it.
Teofimo, what's it like for a guy like what's it going to be like for a guy like this Tafley to come to New York City and fight you? He's never fought out of Europe. He's rarely fought outside of Finland. Big Baby Miller said, he said to Anthony Joshua, "You're coming to a place where roaches and rats steal your pocket money." Do you think it's going to be an intimidating experience for Tafley fighting in New York in front of in the most famous arena in the history of boxing?
Don't get me wrong, Madison Square Garden is the mecca of boxing. So, even though I fought there four times already, it's still something huge, something that, you really can't take in. It's the magnitude of it, that's what I mean. So, and I fought there 4 times. So I can only imagine what this man's going to go through probably. If we do end up fighting, see how he ends up. But as of right now, it hasn't been said. So, sources have been talking about it. But Top Rank hasn't officially posted it out there yet, so it's not official yet until they do it. Yeah.
Taddy's fought some names, and in Europe, boxing is big, so he's been around. He's been in big stages.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
So I don't think that's going to bother him at all. What's going to bother is the ass kicking we're going to give him.
Hey, you know what? You're famous as a crowd pleaser kind of a guy. You clearly love the spotlight, and you celebrate every knockout in a unique way. You've done your home run trot and your Fortnite dance, and your backflip, and you were a grave digger after you KO'd Magdaleno, which drew some criticism from some social media haters. How much of what we see is spontaneous from you, and how much do you plan in advance?
Say that again, spontaneous?
Yeah, in other words.
Yeah, I know.
We do it because we want to.
Yeah, that's all it really is. It's just the whole thing is just catching.
Celebrating.
It's not just celebrating, because I could just celebrate off a backflip and that's about it, and everybody gets excited. But we want to do more than that. We want to do like the TO of football, but we're doing it in boxing.
Yeah.
So, and things like that. It's just bringing more excitement for people to tune in more. Not just to see a great fight, a great performance that I put each and every time. But on top of that, what is Teofimo Lopez going to do next after the win? What is he going to do? And then people want to see us win. More people want to see us win because they want to see more celebrations and things like that. So we're just entertaining so many people, and it's a big smile. So it's really hard for these other fighters fighting after me, to top that performance, and that's why we say it's the takeover.
Could you please do me a favor? You tell the audience out there, for these Gervonta Davis, all these freaking guys are trying to copy, which was ridiculous when he came out with that Thriller show, which was the worst thing I ever seen in my life. All these guys are trying to do something that they're not used to doing. We started doing this from the beginning. Now these guys are trying to copy our shit, and they're looking ridiculous, even that other guy, Creo, or whatever his name is, with the pillow, it's just ridiculous, The guy gets dropped in the fight, and then he goes and he wins the fight, and then he goes and shows that pillow on the stage. And they're copying us. They're trying to hype up the fights because they see what we're doing, and now they want to try to do the same thing again. You never used to see that in boxing. All of a sudden, we start doing a trend, and everybody's trying to follow us. It's so fake.
Yeah. Hey, Teofimo. Yeah. Teofimo, are you pretty much, I'm just curious about this, are you pretty much the same guy when nobody's looking, or when you get on the stage, do you think of yourself, in the boxing ring, do you think of yourself as a performer when you get in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm two different people. People haven't actually got to know me personal-wise, and just meeting me, without the cameras and everything, man. I'm very, a lot of people criticize me from what they see in the ring, but I'm two different people, man. Anyone that you could ask that has met me, they say that I'm humbled and I'm a whole different type of guy. And it's true. When the lights come on, I turn into this animal. I turn into this, some could say, arrogant type of fighter, but I just believe in myself, and it's a switch, and I turn it on, and it's, like a performer. That's it. And I'm just performing for everybody, entertaining. And then once the lights are off and everything, I'm back to who I am. Well, everybody's talking about.
That's something. Did you? You're only 21, but I got to ask you this: did you have a boxing hero as a kid? Somebody that you read about, or you might have seen on television or something? Was there anyone?
No. Growing up, who was my idol? I would say would be like Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson, and those were like the two major guys that I used to just watch all the time and just just pick up little things from them and just basically collaborate that into my style. and those were the things. And it turned out to be, my father always training me, watching different videos, watching so many things, and telling me things that I could do that he knows I could perfect. And with time and things like that, it just turned out to be what you have today. And we're not even there yet. This is only the beginning.
Like at 20% of his capacity. I mean, I could teach him for 15 years. You will still not learn everything that I got to teach.
And that's when you know you're doing everything right, because you are supposed to always know something new each time. If you know everything, then what's the point in doing it? So that's the thing. So that's why me and my father have a great relationship. Inside and outside the boxing world. So it's perfect. Yeah. So me and him being together for 16 years in the boxing game. We've been killing it, man. Now it's starting to pay off.
Have you seen any fighter do the punches that my son does? Did you see that catch and shoot that we did where they played the slow motion? That's almost impossible to do. There ain't no fighter out there doing that. The one closest to ever doing that was Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. It's just different things, man. Look, with only 12 fights coming in now, about to be 13, April 20th. I'm ahead of my prime. Well, I'm ahead of my time, basically. It's just I'm just God gifted, and I think people need to realize that and give me credit for it. The way we're outperforming everybody, the way we're just we're making everything look easy. These fighters that I'm fighting are not, they're not bums or anything like that.
Yeah.
These are tough guys. These are tough competitors. They
are. Yep.
And why you think the guys like Jose Pedraza and Luke Campbell's and all those guys will want to fight us. It's just too much of a risk for them. Whatever it is, but let's see what happens when the world title's on the line. Let's see what happens. Let's see if they're still gonna talk and say that there's too much left on the line. No, let's see. A lot of people say that I have a lot to lose in this coming fight. To be honest, man, I never look at it like that. I never look at I have a lot to lose. I've always been the type where I'm always hungry, and so many people always underestimated me and stuff like that. So I just never put myself in that situation where I was like, oh, I have a lot to lose, so I better not mess up. That's why when you guys see me fight, I'm all free. I'm all happy. I do whatever the hell I want to do because I don't have nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're walking when you're walking to the ring. When you're walking to the ring, Teofimo, something that only fighters experience, and it's pretty damn exciting. Are you drinking it all in, or are you already deep in the zone, pretty focused on what you need to do when the bell rings?
No, once I hear the crowd and everything, I hear them screaming my name, chanting and everything, before we even get in the ring, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good one. And then the moment I get the right song, and I always look for the right song for the audience. It's not even for me; it's for the audience. Because when you get the audience, then that right there alone, you're getting yourself. You start hyping your own self because you're hearing the crowd screaming and jumping and bouncing to the music. So that right there is one of the strategies I like to take in, and the reason why being is because of that. Going into the ring, you don't want to just hear people quiet or whatever it is. And I think for the most part, I'm addicted to this. This is my lifestyle. I'm addicted to it. And can't nobody say I'm a performer, man. What can I say? I love when I'm a show off. I love when the audience is hearing me, like they screaming and everything. I just love it, man. I love this big stages. The bigger the stage, the better I perform. That's why every time I fought at Madison Square Garden, I've always knocked somebody out.
Yeah.
Coach, what kind of little kid was your son? Was he a handful, or was he a great kid all the time?
Oh, I was a handful. I'll answer that for him. I was a handful, man. I was a pain in his butt, man.
You quit on me like 200 times.
Yeah.
Any father
in what way?
But every father in the world would have quit on him. But I just believed in him. I would see things that nobody else was doing at 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, you know. I knew he had the gift, and I wasn't going to let him go.
Wow.
You know?
You two have a great story. You guys have a great story about the very first time that you took him to the gym. You were a limo driver, right? And you dropped him off and told the coach, the trainer in there, you know, keep an eye on him for me for a few minutes. Came back in, and he's already throwing combinations. Is that a true story?
Yeah. Because I was actually training for boxing, and actually when we moved from New York, he was about, I think, almost turning 6, and actually we moved right next to a boxing gym. So you know, I was into boxing, so I was, you know, training with this trainer, and when I left, and I told him, listen, I gotta, you know, 'cause I was doing all this while I was in the limo business, and I told him, you know, just keep an eye on him, and when I came back, he was just doing some combinations with the pad, and the guy told me, yo, this shit takes about 2 months or 3 months to learn, and this kid's done it in 5 minutes. You know, he's gifted. He was born for this. Yeah. So ever since that, I stopped doing my thing, and I just focused on him. But it wasn't something like, it was like I always wanted, you know, like it just happened, you know. And from that day on, we never left, you know, until right now, you know. We've always been in the gym. Not 1 month off, not 1 week off, not 2 weeks off. You know, only when he will be sick, we won't be in the gym. But that's why he is the fighter that he is right now. But my training is something out of this world. It's something that coaches don't teach their trainers. I mean, their fighters. But my style of boxing is a defensive kind of boxing, but an entertaining kind of boxing. Not the type of boxing where you're gonna be boxing and running away from the fighter. You know, he hasn't been tested yet for him to have to back off and box it. And he could win every fight just doing that. But we don't want to do that. We want to bring entertainment back into boxing. You know, everybody. You know, one thing I love the most when I see some comments about people, they say that boxing is back, and the only person doing it is Teofimo Lopez. And you got to be naive and blind not to see when he fights. Everybody is off their phones. Nobody's texting nobody. Nobody's talking to nobody. Everybody just has their freaking eyes open like they're going to pop out, you know, because it's just entertaining. Nobody knows what he's going to do next. Okay. And I know you noticed that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then everybody calls me arrogant because everybody calls me arrogant because everybody says that I'm thinking that Lomachenko ain't nobody, man. And I'm telling you something right now, Lomachenko is going to be easier than the last fight we had with Magdaleno. I'm telling you, he's too small. He's too small. All that little patty cake things that he throws, we're just going to walk right through that.
As you guys can see, my father is very into the fight for Lomachenko.
No, it's not that. We want the belts. And we want this hype boy because he's a hype boy. You know, we want to get rid of him. You know, he's already scared. He's hurt. I just hope he does good in the next fights he has because, you know, we want him to look good. So when we get him, nobody's going to say that he was already broken, you know? I don't want no excuses. But that's a fight that I really want.
Yeah.
You sparred with Rigondeaux when you were 16 years old? Is that right?
Yes, I did.
We are classics, by the way.
How did it go? Yeah, tell me about it.
It was good. I learned a lot from Rigondeaux. Around that time, my stage of life, yeah. I learned a lot from him. He was very defensive. He was very smart. But I picked up on it. I picked up on a lot of things from him. Like, I picked up and I adapted to his style right away, actually. And, yeah, after that, he couldn't touch us or anything. So it was good.
I think he was 15.
No, I was 16. I was about to be 17, actually. Yeah, it was good. It was good work, you know. And after we sparred, I could tell I was sparring with some other people afterwards, and he got out the ring, and he was just staring at me the whole time, like what, like he just witnessed something. Yeah.
Any other questions? Cause we gotta go. We gotta eat.
We got $1 million for you. But if you got to run, man, we appreciate the time that you've given us today, and we'd love to.
Do you guys have any more? No, it's fine. Do you guys have any more questions for my father?
You know, yeah, we got probably 1,000 of them. But
nah, you don't have to be. If you don't, you don't. You know, you don't have to be.
We could do it on another show.
What's your gut feeling about Mikey Garcia? Is he going to come back to 135 to fight you?
Never.
Yeah.
It's impossible. He's not going to get weak to go down to 135 and face my son. That's impossible. You know, he's already slow as it is. You know, he'll just be a punching bag, I'm telling you.
You're a big, strong guy at 135. Is 135 still an easy weight for you to make? There's attractive fights for you waiting at 140 also, and I'm wondering how long you want to stay where you are.
I told everyone the end of 2018, and I told everyone now that this year is my last year at 135. 2020 will be moving to 140, and there's and we let all the 140-pound champions on notice to let them know that we're coming, and we're coming to take over. We're coming to dethrone all of them and strip them off their belts.
Teofimo, is that your plan?
Man. We're ruthless. We got no feelings.
Is that your plan, Teofimo, to move up as you get a little older? I mean, to go 140, then maybe 147. Is that what you're thinking?
Of course. There ain't nothing in 135.
Yeah, the only thing that I think my father will see, that the reason why I keep saying Lomachenko is because that's probably the only guy at 135, you know? So, and that's about it. So that's the only reason why he's so in tune about it and us fighting Lomachenko and things like that. So, you know, it's a lot of things. And I don't know if the fight will happen, you know, on his end, but we're up for every
Top rank wants it because that will bring my son to be the next Manny Pacquiao.
I always told my father though, it's like regardless of what it is, Lomachenko's been pro for how long, guys? About 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And still making the same money.
No. Not only that. On top of that, like ESPN is trying to promote this guy and as much as possible, but they cannot. Why being is because, listen, guys, the whole thing is about that a lot of fighters need to understand is that everybody has a job to do, right? As in, you guys interview us, and it's not only just we help each other out because you help us by letting everybody on notice that you guys have, all the fans and all the people that are tuning into your show on your radio, and things like that. So it goes to back and forth. You guys help us, we help you, and it goes like that, and we make a name for ourselves. So no matter what it is, we don't pass up on any interviews because we want people to know us, and we want people to. And on top of that, it's the performance. What do you do after you win, and things like that. If you just fight and you win just to win, not really. Many people don't really care because there's a whole bunch of fighters that win. You know, what are you doing different? What are you doing that's catching people's eyes? So no lie. All these fighters today, up to date, right now, are making my job easier. Yeah. I'm not struggling trying to perform because it's so easy.
We sold out that hula theater. We sold it out. And
they had problems. Lomachenko couldn't even sell out the Hulu theater, which is only 4,000 or 5,000. And I could keep going about facts about this stuff, you know. But the whole point being, the reason why I'm saying this is because whether we fight Lomachenko, whether we don't, we're going to be the next big thing in boxing. And I think I always tell my father that. I was like, no matter what it is, if this guy doesn't want to fight us, whatever it is, it does not hurt our career. I always told him. And this is something that I keep constantly telling him because all he brings up is Lomachenko. And I understand he wants to fight. He's excited. He knows that he wants to shut everybody up. And so do I. But on this, and I do. I actually enjoy it because I'm like, all that shit that you guys started was, and I slap it and I shut them up, you know, and that's what I'm good at doing. I like to shut people up, so I'm good at that. And the whole thing is that with the whole Lomachenko thing is like, if it happens, good. If it don't, it doesn't change anything on our goals. You know, my father, when I fought the Olympics, and he thought my career was already over once I lost, when they robbed me. And I looked at him, I was like, this doesn't mean anything. And look where we at today. People are saying I am the future of boxing. People are saying I'm the next big thing. People are saying that I'm the next pay-per-view star coming off from Mayweather and stuff like that. So, you know, where all that leads to is I'm promoting myself just as much, if not better. You know, and those are the things that I've come to realize. You know, you got to entertain, you got to do those things.
All right, last question for you, because I know you guys want to go eat. Teofimo, how much has your life changed since you turned pro and got on national TV and started knocking people out and doing backflips and firing up those New York fans? What's it like nowadays to walk down the street in Brooklyn, New York, and be Teofimo Lopez?
People still don't know who I am, man.
Really?
Oh, really? I like it like I like it like that, man. I actually do. I like just being what I do in the ring, whatever it is, that day I enjoy, I celebrate the win, the victory, and everything. Whoever wants to come, the fans to take pictures, I'm all up for it. It's a blessing, you know. There's so many kids that I'm influencing to do better on top of that. So I have a great platform. But as of right now, we're not there yet, guys. We're still not there yet. And we have a lot to keep going. We have a lot to show and a lot to prove. But, you know, when people come and see us, they you know, it's starting to get bigger. The audience is starting to get bigger. And come July, if we fight at Madison Square Garden again, we'll be the main event and we'll sell it out. So things like that. So it's just one fight at a time. And what does Teofimo Lopez does next? What is he doing next? What is he going to do next? And that's all up to me, guys. Nobody's in the ring. Only me and the other opponent. You know, my father could tell me all the things that I need to know when I'm in there. But it's up to me to do them.
Yep.
And that's one thing. So, you know, all this is nice. It's good. It's great. You know, it shows that all the things that we're working on is starting to pay off finally. You know, but I don't put that on. I don't put that as a pedestal. I don't let that get to my head. You know, it's just another fight. Keep it moving.
Hey, you're doing it right, man. He's just 21 years old. He's already a 5-alarm fire in boxing's lightweight division. Undefeated, Teofimo Lopez is fighting April 20th at Madison Square Garden, where his opponent is expected to be Edis Tatley, who's currently rated number 3 in the world by the WBO and the IBF. It'll be on the undercard of the Amir Khan and Terrence Crawford fight, which you will see on ESPN pay-per-view. Teofimo, you are must-see TV in the boxing world right now. Best of luck to you, and thanks to both of you guys for giving us some time today on the Ringside Boxing Show. We really appreciate it.
Woo, woo. I'm excited, man.
Thank you, guys.
So are we.
Man. Well, I want to thank you guys. Ringside Boxing, thank you so much, guys, for having us. It's always a pleasure, man. And like I said, man, the takeover come April 20th. ESPN pay-per-view. Tune in. Don't miss it because, like he said, we're must-see TV. That's what it is.
That's right.
We're must-see fight.
Right.
Let's get it.
We'll be there.
Well, my last comment is when you ask him that question, how known is he? Remember, he's only got 12 fights.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about him. You know.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about him. So, you know, they weren't talking about Floyd in his 12th fight. So, you know, we bringing it. I see like 2 more fights, and the whole world's gonna know him. Especially when we beat up Lomachenko in December.
Yeah, that should do it.
Right.
Yep. All right, guys. Good luck.
Good.
Thank you very much. Great talking to you.
Good luck,
all right, bye. Thank you.
Teofimo.
All right.
Good luck, Lopez.
All right. Teofimo and Teofimo Lopez from Brooklyn, New York. Hey, do you like this show? Do us a solid and post the Ringside Boxing Show on your social media outlets. Help us grow. John and I also want to remind you to check out our book, Intimate Warfare, The True Story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward Boxing Trilogy, which was an Amazon bestseller. and it's got close to a 5-star rating from readers. It's worth checking out. We want to thank our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, and my partner, John J. Responti, our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, and, of course, another big thanks to Teofimo Lopez Jr. and Teofimo Lopez Sr. for being our special guests today on the Ringside Boxing Show. We also appreciate you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience again today. Keep your chin tucked, and we'll talk to you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. It's a great day